Hello everybody. I'm going to go through a few other functions of the software, basically how to navigate through the data traces and how to navigate through the sessions and define regions, how to do some mathematical functions, and how to control the windows, and also maybe how to export some data from this program. Commonly used functions. So we've got data from all the various types of scans that we've created in the last series of tutorials, and I've got them here in the legend. By clicking on an individual experiment, you can see the graph will update to reflect the contents of that experiment. So we've got a emission scan here, and we've done an excitation scan as well, and we did a ratio, an emission ratio, an excitation ratio, and a multi-die. So you can see as I go through each session, the graph will automatically update to reflect those. There might be a time when you want to maybe see the individual data points on the graph, and that's very useful. We can right-click into the graph menu here. So if I were to expand this tree and click on that trace, I can go to plot mode by right-clicking within the graph, and then we can set this to say lines endpoints, which is useful so you can sort of see when your data was actually sampled. And that's retained for each individual trace separately, so you can set the properties of a trace so that it would be the plot mode right here is stored with each trace. We can go back to line. So that's a useful tool that you may turn it on and off quite readily. And the other one I want to show you is the hide toggle visibility. If I have a trace over here, you can see I may just want to look at the emission, and by clicking on the small eye tool, it'll hide the blue trace, which is the excitation scan. And we can also toggle that one off and the other one back on. And if we select both traces with the say, we can right click and we can toggle the visibility, which will actually just act as a toggle between the two. And you can right click to access that toggle visibility, or you can also use the toolbar icon to toggle the visibility between the two traces. So another very powerful, useful tool. You're going to be using the hide show traces quite a bit when you're using Felix 32. The other tools that we have here that are available I'd like to show you are the zoomer. And the zoomer is a mode that you check on by clicking the zoom tool here, and then you define the mode of the zooming. So if you're on the bounding box zoom, you can then use it like a bounding box, and you can select the area you want to zoom in on, and the software will automatically zoom that area. To zoom back out, you'll have the quick full auto scale to get back out. If you restrict zooming only to the x-axis, you would select this tool, and now when I choose the zoom, I can only select X directions. And again, this will reset me. We can also only select the Y-axis zooms. If we just want to go, say, from here to here, you'll automatically zoom the graph within the defined area that you've selected with the zoomer. Okay, we also have available a pan graph function, which is this tool over here. And this one is where I can just click on the graph and I can drag the graph around, which is called panning. We can go down, we can go right up to the bottom, and we can go to full auto scale. Okay, we also have a data cursor. If you wanted to look at individual data points within the graph, we could just select the trace that we want, and we can enable the hide show data cursor. Now you can see here you've got the actual X, Y coordinates of each data point. This is also useful if you're going to be changing the plot mode, say, to lines endpoints. And then I can move the tool up or down. In order to move it, you have to actually go in, and you can move it in the up, down direction, or you can move it in the X direction, sorry. And if you click right in the center, you can move it to X or Y. So you can move that data cursor to any point that you want, and then you can see the actual XY coordinates. The other thing we can do is we can switch the graph mode. So if I wanted to, I could look at the actual ASCII data within those individual points. So if I wanted to point, say, 271, I can simply go to grid mode here, and then I can scroll down and I can see 271 and the exact value that's within that point. This data can be selected, and you can copy it, and that data can then go into the clipboard, or you could paste it into Origin or MicroCal or SigmaPlot, any other third-party program that you might be using for data traces. The graphs are kind of intelligent in that if I was to do a ratio experiment, I could go back here to my dual window view, and it will automatically remember that I've had my raw data traces up here and my derived ratio trace down below. There's one more graph mode down here, which will show us the data trace in the top graph, and then we can see the ASCII data in the bottom graph below. We can scroll through and look at the individual values of each data point. So these are all useful modes that you'll use for navigating through a graph. And in the next tutorial, I'll show you how to do some mathematical functions.